בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים. We're back, starting BeEzrat HaShem another week. Chag Sameach, Chag Chanukah Sameach. Lit another candle tonight, Baruch Hashem, the fourth candle for Chanukah. This is a very special time for Sgulot, for Nisim. It's a time, an auspicious time for miracles for Am Yisrael. And BeEzrat Hashem, through the merit of this shiur and learning Torah together, BeEzrat Hashem, each and every one of us will get the miracles that we each need in our lives, BeEzrat Hashem. Especially the ones that have to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana, Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah, Bat Anat, Yeshua ben Noach, Serach bat Batya, Batya bat Sarah, Orit bat Ilana, Michal bat Yael, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Stefan ben Katarina, Jonas ben Sherry Haley, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Marsha bat Julie and her dear daughter Ayla bat Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, and all of Am Yisrael, especially those that are helping us at this time of the year to get Am Yisrael closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, of course, each and every week we start a new week. We learn a little bit more Torah together to get a little bit of a better understanding of what does a Jewish mind really look like. You know, today, the big issue is that unfortunately, there's a lot of us that are not keeping Torah and mitzvot, and even in the frum world, you have many people that are what's called meshubashim. Meshubashim meaning that they have like a spiritual defect, if you will. These are my words, not exact definition of it or translation of it. Meshubash being that there's unfortunately many times that you're going to see people that more or less look religious. They do religious things. They go to synagogue. They perhaps eat kosher. They dress a certain way. But unfortunately, they do not do what a religious person is supposed to do, such as the countless different awful videos that are on the internet. There's even a whole group of reshaim in different coasts that highlights all of the bad things that they find so-called religious people doing. One thing that came out public recently was at least sent to me, was a group of guys that look, like they're religious, even Hasidim, and one of the people, I think he's actually the one that took the video, but anyway, he says that the main person that was being highlighted in his video was a rabbi, supposedly. I don't know who he is, but the point is that this group of religious people were smoking marijuana, doing all types of awful things according to the Torah. Drugs are obviously not something that we take lightly in Judaism, as anyone that saw the recent shiur or clip that we did about drugs, where if it's for medicinal reasons, it's one thing, but if it's for pleasure and to get a person high, it's completely forbidden according to the Torah. That's what Rav Moshe Feinstein talks about. That's what the Gemara talks about, where a person is forbidden to put themselves in a state of high, because that means that they're not going to be aware of their owner, of their creator. But the point being is that this particular group of people were smoking drugs. And if that wasn't bad enough, the guy that's in the main guy on the videos says, "Oh, we should, they do a bracha on it. He makes a blessing for it." So it's like eating pig, but doing a blessing before you eat. I mean, it's not enough that you're already making a sin, but you're also taking Hashem's name in vain too. So unfortunately, today there's much of this. There's a lot of this. I remember when I was Shem Yishmo, when I was still in the secular world myself. One of the big yetzaras that I had is that I used to see religious people in places that you're not supposed to see religious people, such as casinos. And it never really made sense to me, but it made sense to my Yetzer Hara to use that as a case against becoming religious, against keeping Shabbat, and so on. So I always tell people, Judaism is not necessarily always best represented by Jewish people, or by all Jewish people, but nonetheless, the best people in the world are the Jewish people. But not just all of them, rather the ones that actually observe Judaism in accordance to the Torah, and not just in accordance to their whatever fits their agenda for that day. So you cannot judge Judaism just based on any Jew you find on the street. If you want to judge Judaism, you have to look at the people that dedicated their entire life to toiling over the Torah in order to fulfill Judaism at the highest possible level. You can't just look at just any average Joe and say, this guy is the representative of Judaism, and it's a guy that's doing lines or something, or stealing from people. You got to look at the Gdolei Ador, you got to look at Rav Kanievsky, Rav Ovadia Alav Shalom, the Steipler Gaon, the Rambam, Rashi, the Gdolim that we have. You have to look at those people as the ones that were the giants that dedicated their lives. They were geniuses, but needless to say, they were the ones that knew most about Judaism and what it's supposed to be. And they were the best representatives of it. Now, if you look at just any average Joe, it's like judging all of the black people because of one criminal that decided to do things and he happens to be black. It's like judging all of the Spanish people because one guy did one thing. It's like judging all of the Americans, all of the Germans, all of the Chinese in a certain way because one guy did such a thing. It's not a fair thing, but usually that's something that people that are anti-Semitic do. They judge all of us based on the evil acts of specific people, but even more so, it's heretics do it, even more than Nazis, even more than anti-Semitics, people that hate the fact that they have to follow the Torah, they hate rules, they hate that God gives them a set of rules they're obligated to follow, but not suggested, an actual obligation. In order to justify their misbehavior, they're going to do everything and anything possible to, in essence, destroy the legitimacy, or at least what's viewed as legitimacy for Judaism, as if we need legitimacy. But the key to understand is that if you ever want to know what Judaism is, you have to look in the Torah. Because without the Torah, there is no Judaism. Judaism is not a culture. Judaism is not something that you could just simply take lightly. It's not an intellectual subject. It's not something that you could just be just because who you are. Like some people think, oh, because my mom is Jewish, therefore I'm a Jew. Technically, halachically, you are described as a Jew according to the Torah, but not the Jew that is going to be the definition of what a Jew really is. Because a person that is a Jew, in accordance to what the Torah is worlds apart from a person that is a Jew by birth, but not necessarily following the Torah. And this is one of the things that's commonly confused, commonly misunderstood, even by Jewish people. And last week we spoke about a nice Jewish boy that made a very big mistake. His name is Rudy Rochman, and he contacted me. I just hadn't had a chance to get back to him yet. But he thinks that I misunderstood him. And it's very interesting that every time we highlight a specific mistake that somebody did, whether intentionally or unintentionally, they always claim that we misunderstood. The whole world understood except us. So again, it's very important for us to know what is a Jew supposed to look like. What is a Jewish mind supposed to think like? And that's what the Chazon Ish has been helping us week after week for the last several months to explain to us what is the foundation of a Jew. And the reason why he starts this book that's called Emunah and Bitachon, it has a lot more than just Emunah and Bitachon. As anyone that's been watching this series knows already, it has a lot more than just Emunah and Bitachon. But needless to say, the reason why the Chazon Ish here is telling us about this critical subject of Emunah and Bitachon is because Emunah and Bitachon is in essence the foundation of Jewish ideology. It's the foundation of Jewish ideology. If you have it, we can build empires on top of it, empires of holiness on top of it. If you don't have it, then unfortunately, only horrible things will follow. As you can see from the Torah itself, We have the 5 books of Moses. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, how many times are they going to test me? And they've tested me 10 times already. What are these tests? If you look, we tested him by complaining about the food that he gave us, the man. Then we wanted meat. Then we complained about the water. Then we complained about being in a desert and not in Egypt, as if Egypt was Taj Mahal or something. We complain and complain and complain. And in essence, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe Rabbeinu? When are they ever going to have bitachon in me? When are they going to have bitachon in me that they're going to trust me that I know what I'm doing, and most importantly, I know what I'm doing for them specifically, where I know what they need before they even do, and I take care of their needs before they even know they need them. By not having bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, simply a Jew is putting themselves in a situation that they are going against their own boss, their own creator, their own owner, their own Father in heaven, in the worst possible way. In the worst possible way. Why? Because this is the hand that feeds you, and you're calling the food poison. This is the hand that gives you all the things that you need in your life, but you're saying, no, I need something else. And go back exactly the same place that you started off with. Meaning going back to the hand that feeds you, which is, this is what you needed all along. You just wasted your time going around the circles 50 times. And unfortunately, when a person does not have bitachon, all hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose. All of the sins that a person can possibly make usually start with lack of bitachon in HaShem. And this is some of the things that we're going to talk about. Now, briefly, and again, I highly recommend everyone to watch the entire series to understand what we're talking about here, and not just start over here. If you have, if you're sitting on needles and you can't just see yourself, go back 20-something lectures to the beginning, and you have to start sooner. I still recommend going back at least 4 lectures before watching this one, because we go into some details that are really critical that we're building on now, where if you start off now, you'll understand what we're saying, but you'll be missing certain things. Now again, I always recommend for everybody to download our app, the BeEzrat HaShem app. It's for free, but the most important thing is that it's going to help you be focused when you're learning our Torah and not be distracted by YouTube or Facebook or anything else that's out there that we're using in the media to get to people. Download the app. It's BeEzrat HaShem, BEEZRAT, and then HASHEM. And download the app, and you'll be able to watch the lectures without any Yetzirah distractions. A lot of people that have known us and have been watching our shurim for years already have thanked me 1,000,000 times over these last few weeks that I've been highly recommending the app, because they listen, I've been watching shurim for a long time, but for whatever reason or another, I never thought about watching it on the app. Last few weeks I've been watching it on the app. It's a world apart. I feel like I'm together with you because there's no distractions. So again, highly recommend for people to watch it on the app. For those of you that are fortunate enough to watch us live, please ignore the comments. There's always some Amalek or some missionary or some Rasha of another that is going to distract you. It's going to give you all types of stupid comments and so on. Ignore the comments altogether. And for those of you that can't help yourself and you have to talk, if you need to talk to somebody, go to somewhere else. Go to a private session. Don't message each other on the message board over here. Why? We're here to learn. You'll be distracting, and it's better that you don't watch the shiur at all than being distracting to other people. There's no mitzvah in being distracting in a shiur. So with that being said, it's really important that we understand this subject, because if we understand it well, that means that we're going to be able to absorb it and apply it in our life. If we don't understand it well, we could literally live another 70 years on a mistaken path. That's how critical this message is when it comes to bitachon. We already discovered that emunah and bitachon are not exactly what they're portrayed as or what we thought they were most of our lives. It's not just think good and therefore good things will happen. That's not emunah and bitachon according to Judaism. That's not emunah and bitachon according to our holy Torah. Emunah is first and foremost understanding the one and only creator of the world, that there is nothing that escapes him. There is nothing that he's not aware of. your thoughts, your memories, your future, your past, your present, your feelings, your anguish, your pain, your suffering, everything that's in the world, He knows, as little or as big as you are. Those two little boys, Hashem Yishmo, that got killed in a car accident in Eretz Yisrael in the last 24 hours, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows about it, and He's the one that decided to do it. Now, we cry when people die, not because we, Chas v'Shalom, have any complaints on Hashem. We cry because there's 1.5 million reasons, 1.5 million reasons that Hashem has in order to bring such harsh judgment on the world, and we don't even know which one is this one that earned us this suffering. To see two little boys, 3 and a 5-year-old kid, die in a car accident, Hashem Yishmo. Their father says at the burial, it says, just last night I was celebrating Hanukkah with you and lighting the candles. Now I have to bury you. What a Shem Yishmo. What kind of suffering Am Yisrael has. Another woman contacted us today, told us that just recently she tried to commit suicide. Why? She used to be very rich until her evil ex-husband decided to cheat on her with her best friend. Stole all the money, gave up a whole life with her, a whole marriage, left her with 4 kids, no money whatsoever. She got to a point of poverty, Hashem Yishmo, and doesn't have food to eat. Food to eat she didn't have. What suffering Am Yisrael has, and guess who does it? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why am I mentioning only the hard things? Why don't I mention all of the wonderful things that happened to people? So-and-so got married, so-and-so had a child. Yes, we know about all those wonderful stories. But no one has emunah problems when it comes to the good stories. In fact, it's very easy to forget Hashem even exists. When good things happen. We think we did it. We think we made the money. We think we found the shidduch. We think we did everything. We don't give Hashem any credit whatsoever. As it says in Parashat Ekev, Kochi ve'otzem yadi. My hand, my power, I did it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look what you're saying. You're saying you did it. And the very next few words says, this is what leads a person to idolatry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes, knows, understands what's in your mind. And He says, when you're in your mind, when you're saying statements like you did it, you made the money, you found this, you did that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it's like idolatry. It's like idolatry. Which means that not having emunah is not, oh, you're missing a character trait, you should get better. You're missing a few dollars in the bank account, maybe if you work harder you'll get more. No, not having emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu is literally one degree, one step away, if not already inside idol worship. So it's important, it's critical for a person to know, first and foremost, what is emunah? What is emunah? Second of all, do whatever you can to establish it, to get it, to acquire it. And that is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He is the one and only creator. No one has power other than Hashem. He uses different servants, such as the Satan and other servants that He has for good and for bad. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one that signs off on everything. The good and the bad. Your individual good and the general good. Now, when it comes to acquiring higher level of emunah, the Chazon Ish teaches us, it's not just by thinking deeply and meditating and going to some yard and saying, oh, I want more emunah and therefore I'm going to have it. He says, no, you have to fulfill the Torah at its core. What is fulfilling the Torah at its core? As the Gaon Mivilna said clearly, the whole point of the entire 613 mitzvot, the Taryag mitzvot, is to mold you into a perfect human being, a perfect Jew. You're supposed to use all of the mitzvot in order to perfect your character traits, eliminate all of the bad character traits. That's the core of Judaism, it's the core purpose of your life. If a person fixes their character traits, they have a purpose to their life. If they don't, Lema nutzarta, Gaon Mivilna says. For what were you created then? What's the purpose of your life if you're not fixing yourself? And the Chazon Ish says, if a person wants to increase his emunah, he has to fulfill the Torah at its core. What is its core? Perfect his character traits. The more he perfects, the more she perfects her character traits, the more they eliminate the bad ones, the more emunah you're going to have. It's a cause and effect. It's a cause and effect. You perfect your character traits by making yourself more humble, by making yourself more generous at the right places, by making yourself less angry, by making yourself simply a better person in accordance to the Torah, not a better person in accordance to society, because Hashem Yishmo, what society's definition of better. You do that, that's going to acquire you emunah. After that, we get to bitachon. Bitachon is a clarity that Kadosh Baruch Hu, whatever he gives is the best possible outcome out of all outcomes out there. Bitachon is not just simply trusting that Hashem is going to do good for you and you're going to win the lotto and that's why I should buy this lotto ticket. You're going to get this job and that's why you don't need to even prepare. That's not bitachon. That's craziness. Bitachon be'Hashem means that whatever Hashem gives you, that is the best possible thing that you can get in the world. There is no better choice. A person that sells their stock at a profit, at a loss, doesn't make a difference. He sells their stock, and literally moments later or days later, that stock shoots through the roof. Which happens to countless people. If that person says, I should have held on, see what happened. If I would have held on, I would have made so much money. Those are divrei kfirah. Those are the words of a heretic. Why? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed you to sell the stock before it went up, or to buy the stock right before it went down, in so many words, to your loss, to your detriment, that means that transaction was the best possible thing that was available to you. It may not necessarily be the best possible thing that could happen, because surely other things can happen, but for your circumstance, it's the best possible thing that could have happened. To say that something else could have happened had you done something else, meaning not spiritually, but something else in the physical world, is heresy. That's in essence saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a mistake. Bitachon be'Hashem means that you have confidence as a result of your clarity of who Hashem is. You have confidence in this Creator that whatever He gives you is the best possible path available. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has an infinite amount of paths to take you from point A to point B. Infinite amount. There is no end to what He can do. He can give you things that are natural or what we would consider supernatural. To Hashem, there is no supernatural. It's all the same to Him. Past, present, future, up, down, sideways, within nature, outside of nature. To Him, it's all the same thing. So, here we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has an infinite amount of paths to take you from point A to point B. And if He decides to take you from point A to point B in a specific path, or better said, when He decides to take you from point A to point B in a specific path, that means that all other paths that were available were lesser than that path. Even though it may seem that the other ones are better. It may seem that it would have been better had He let you hold the stock for another few hours and made $50 million. It seems better had He let you stay at that bench and meet that girl and get married and have 5 kids with her. It seems better. It seems better had you done this and had you done. It seems better to you. To you it seems better because all you're seeing is a one-dimensional aspect of reality, where Kadosh Baruch Hu sees all dimensions, the past, the present, the future, your previous incarnation, your current life, your mistakes, your flaws, your good things, and so on and so forth. The point being is that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let's say for argument's sake, there are, let's say, 10,000 paths to go from 1 to 100. 10,000 paths, just to give you a number. And as I said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no limitation. There is no 10,000. There's no limitation of what He can do from point A to point B. But let's just say there's 10,000 ways to get from point A to point B. If He decides on path number 1 or number 500 or number 9,999, whichever one it is, that means that that path is not only good for you, but it's better than all 9,999 other paths. That's what bitachon be'Hashem means. Even if that means that there's going to be a loss, even if that means there's going to be suffering, even if that means there's going to be pain and anguish. And this is why it baffles me that there are certain people that would call themselves religious in many aspects, in some cases even Rabbanim, but yet they still have not answered the question of where was God during our past tragedies, whether it would be recent tragedies or past tragedies like the Holocaust or otherwise. When you have bitachon in Hashem, you have a clarity that everything that Rahmana does, everything that the Merciful One does, it's always the best. Just like Rabbi Akiva says in the Gemara Masechet Brachot towards the latter pages, or his runners, his Rebbes, Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu was one of the Rabbanim that Rabbi Akiva learned from. And he says, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, Gamzu Letovah, this too is for the good. Meaning, this is the best situation. This is the best. There is nothing better. When a person understands what bitachon is, then he can acquire it. When he can acquire bitachon, his life is very different. Our life is very different. And one of the things that the Chazon Ish clarified for us last week is the danger of living a life of fake bitachon. Fake bitachon is much more dangerous than we would imagine. In fact, the Chazon Ish says having fake bitachon is much more dangerous than having no bitachon at all. Because the one that has no bitachon will usually not say that he has. He's not going to say that he has bitachon. He's not going to lie about it. And he's also not going to teach his lack of bitachon to others. He may influence one or two people that are his immediate circle, but his influence is limited, his impact in the world is limited, and his own perspective is limited. But one that has fake bitachon, actually thinks he has it, and thereby he wants to teach it to others, and he creates other people that also have fake bitachon, in essence becoming like a missionary. A missionary that tells people he's preaching the truth. A missionary that tells people that he's preaching the word of God, but in reality he's preaching the word of an idol. This is what's happening all over the world. And Chazon Ish says someone that has fake bitachon is one step removed from that. Why? Because he wants to create his own Hasidim, his own followers to have the same type of fake bitachon as him, because he thinks it's real. Thereby he creates an endless amount of damage. And that's why he's much more dangerous. So now with that being said, we can move on. What is real bitachon? Now we're not going to cover the whole subject itself. We're going to scratch the surface a little bit, just like we do each week. The Chazon Ish tries to elaborate for us in his own way of what is real bitachon. ואכן מידת הביטחון קניין הלב, ומטבע הבוטח באמת בהצנע לכת ולא יישמע מפיו, כי הוא מן הבוטחים, וגם בליבו הוא נאנח על חסרון ביטחונו ומיעוט שלמותו בזה, ורק למעשה תלווה עמו ביטחון ועצמה בו יתברך. Translation: Indeed, this is, by the way, chapter 2, section number 5. Indeed, the dwelling place of the attribute of trust in Hashem, bitachon, is within the heart. In so many words, it's either you have it or you don't have it. Now, of course, there are levels. There is the bitachon of Moshe Rabbeinu. There's the bitachon of Avraham Avinu. There's the bitachon of David HaMelech. There's the bitachon of the greats. There's the bitachon of the current Gdolei Ador, the past Gdolei Ador, the past sages. There's the bitachon of the giants. Then there's the bitachon of us average people. And then there's the bitachon of somebody that's just starting out. So there's different levels of bitachon, but nonetheless, it's either it exists or it doesn't exist. Where does it exist? What do you have it in your pocket? You have it in a book? You have it in a library somewhere? No. It's in your heart. It's how your heart pumps, how you allow it to pump when there's certain things happen in your life. When that check comes in and it bounces, do you get stressed out? When that bill comes and you don't have money to pay for it, do you get stressed out? When you feel like you should have already been married, successful, with children, and you're not, do you have questions to the Creator of who, why are you doing this to me type of questions? Or you say, Kol de'avid rachamana letav avid. Everything that the merciful one does, it's always for the best. Where is your heart? So Chazon Ish says, bitachon, you'll find it in the person's heart. The true possessor of the trait of bitachon, of trust, is naturally modest, humble person. What does one have to do with the other? Why? Because I'm humble, I'm going to have bitachon. Because I don't have bitachon, that means I'm not humble? Yes, exactly. Exactly. How so? A person that is a possessor of this trait of bitachon is naturally modest, and you will not hear from him that he belongs to the camp of those who have bitachon in Hashem. This, Rabotai, if we delve into the words of the Chazon Ish and study them, is worth $1 billion. As far as allowing us to see who's real and who's not. In essence, the Chazon Ish just took from his treasure chest a treasure and he gave it to us. He said, here you go, this treasure is a sensor. It's a sensor that's going to allow you to know who's a faker and who's real. This is it. This is the, in essence, you can call it a weapon, you can call it whatever you want to call it. This is it. Simple. Someone who preaches that they themselves have bitachon, Chazon Ish says, clear warning sign. They don't have bitachon. If they preach that they have bitachon, oh, I have bitachon, yeah, don't worry, have bitachon like me, and you'll be okay. They talk like that, they don't have bitachon. They don't have bitachon. That's what the Chazon Ish is saying. That's what the Chazon Ish is saying. Why? Because a person that actually has bitachon is modest, and you're never going to hear from him that he belongs to the camp of those that have bitachon in Hashem. What, is he a heretic? What, is he hide? What is this? Let's see. In his heart, meaning this is not just something that's like a fake, he's just pretending like he doesn't have bitachon, he pretends to be a loser, he pretends to be a gimp, he pretends to be missing. No, there's no pretending here. Even in his heart, the Chazon Ish says, he doesn't believe he has bitachon. Even though, according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, according to Torah, he has bitachon. She has bitachon. But he himself doesn't believe he has it. Now, this doesn't mean that he's self-conscious and no. He understands something that perhaps we haven't gone to yet. And let's see. In his heart as well, he bewails his lack of bitachon and lack of perfection in this trait. He is not one to preach to others that he has a lot of bitachon. She is not one to tell people, listen, you should be like me. I used to do this, I used to do that, but now I have bitachon in Hashem, and everything works out. Such a person, Chazon Ish says, use my treasure I just gave you, use that weapon I just gave you. Don't ever listen to this person again. Why? They're faker. They're fake. If they tell you they have bitachon, they're fake. Why? It doesn't go together with this arrogance, this bravado, this type of personality that tells people, oh, look how much I have. It doesn't go together. It's the opposite. If they have bitachon for real, they're a modest person, they're a humble person, and in fact, they don't even believe they have bitachon. Why don't they believe they have bitachon when they have it? Because they're not comparing themselves to people who do not have bitachon. You see, Rabotai, losers compare themselves to people that are even bigger losers than them. They say, see, I'm a big winner. Why are you a big winner? Because I made such and such. Yeah, but you're average. No, look, I did this, but look, there's a lot of people that didn't do even that much. I got a passing grade on the test. I got a 65 on the test, just barely passing. See, I'm a winner. Why are you a winner? But you barely passed. I mean, if you got 100, you got 95, yeah, maybe you're a winner, but you just barely passed. Why does that make you a winner? Because look, there was 6, 10, 100 other people that failed. So the loser compare themselves to losers. The winners, the real winners in life, compare themselves to even bigger winners. And understand that although they won today, there is a lot more to acquire. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more work that they need to do to perfect themselves, to better themselves. That's what winners do. Needless to say, the one that possesses bitachon is not comparing himself or herself to everyone around him that doesn't even believe in HaShem, to everyone around him that's a heretic, to everyone around him that simply doesn't believe, has confidence, nothing. He doesn't compare himself to the guy that works 7 days a week because he doesn't think that HaShem has any money. He doesn't compare himself to that. He compares himself, who? To the Gedolei Ador. He compares himself to the Hasidim, the real Hasidim, the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid Mimezrich, the Rabbi Zusha. He compares himself to those stories. He says, look how much bitachon my rabbis had. Look how much bitachon my forefathers had. Avraham Avinu jumped into the fire. I'm scared to even look at fire. And you want to tell me I have bitachon? He jumped into the fire without even thinking that Hashem is going to save him. But he jumped into it. Why? It was the right thing to do. That's what made him Avraham Avinu. Chananya, Mishael, and Azariah were told by the Navi that Hashem is not going to save them if they get thrown into the fire. It's needless to say, they still jumped into the fire. That's bitachon. And you're telling me why? Because I have a little bit of confidence that Hashem is going to provide for us, and that means I have bitachon. Oh, am I bichlal? I'm a nothing. I'm a zero. Not I'm a zero next to the guy that's negative. I'm a zero next to who I'm learning from. That's what I aspire to be. Every Jew is obligated, the Gemara says, every Jew is obligated to say, when will ma'asai, when will my deeds be like avotai, like my forefathers? When will I be like Avraham Avinu? When will I be like Moshe Rabbeinu? Not that we can get to be Avraham Avinu. Avraham is here and none of us can get there. But when can I fulfill my purpose and get to my fullest potential, just like Avraham Avinu got to his fullest potential? When can I do that? So when a person has a real understanding of what bitachon is and actually acquired some of it, he's not content with it. Why? Because he's constantly comparing it to what he really is supposed to have. He's supposed to be at his fullest potential. And no one that has true bitachon thinks that he got to his fullest potential. No one in their right mind that has real bitachon thinks they get to their fullest potential. Why? Look at what we have in our history. Look at our grandparents, where we came from. Look at them. They literally, you see, there are sfarim. There are books written, not just in the last few thousand years by Am Yisrael, more than any other nation, with wisdom that's beyond comprehension. You have different sages that wrote books with literally hundreds and hundreds of sources they bring without computers. Even as recent as 300 years ago, you see Arav Kuli, the Baal Me'am Loez, writes a sefer, writes several sfarim. Each page has countless sources. You look at the end of each section that he writes, used anywhere from literally 500 to 1,500 different sources, countless times. Not 500 sources for the whole book. 500 to 1,500 different sources, countless different times, probably a few thousand times, with no computer, with no internet, with no nothing. You look at the things that we have in our history. This is what we're related to. But that's not enough. We have Chachamim that wrote books during the Spanish Inquisition, during the pogroms, during Hitler's Ymach Shemo's Holocaust, when he murdered 6 million of us. We have Chachamim, like Rav Oshri, Rav Meisels, and others that literally wrote Sfarim inside the Holocaust, inside the ghettos, inside the concentration camps. They wrote books. And I'm not talking about like, hi, my name is Steve, and today the Nazi didn't kill me. Hopefully I'm alive tomorrow. No, not those kind of books. They didn't write bios. They wrote halachic books. They wrote books judging specific and unique cases that even if you had an archive of all of the books in the world, it's still difficult to figure out, but they had this whole thing in their head. You look at the halachic responsa, the responsa by Rav Oshri. You look at the Rav Meisel's books. You look at some of the other great chachamim we had 70 years ago, Ribono Shel Olam. You see, how does a person think? Forget about right. How does he think clearly for 5 minutes? 5 minutes to write a book like this without the Holocaust. Needless to say, during a Holocaust, some of them write, right now I'm being chased, they just kidnapped my daughter, but I had a chidush about this halacha, and he gives you 1,500 different sources about why this is the answer. How do you think like that? This is what we have. This is our people. This is our sages. This doesn't come from just wisdom. It doesn't come just from, oh, he's a genius. This is having a deep connection to the Torah where a person literally becomes one with it. Udavak beHaShem, he glued himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means that bitachon became second nature to them. So when a person that's a winner, or at least is trying to be a winner, judges himself and says, yeah, I passed this test, Baruch Hashem. I passed that test, Baruch Hashem. But I can't trust myself for the next test. I can't claim that I actually have bitachon. Hashem just had mercy on me. Why? Look at what tests my forefathers went through, how they passed it. If I was put in, forget about Holocaust. If I just didn't eat lunch on time, I don't know what I would do with myself. A person doesn't get his paycheck on time. All of a sudden, he doesn't know if there's a God. Client decides that he doesn't want to do business with them. Oh, I don't know why Hashem is doing this to me. What? You come into Hashem with questions on something silly as that? And you say that you're connected to the Gdolei Ador? You say that you're connected to the biggest rabbis in the world? That's your grandfather, that's your grandmother, that this is you? Ow! What resemblance do you have? The key is, Rabotai, it's not biological resemblance. We need to have a spiritual resemblance. So when a person that has real bitachon knows what real bitachon actually looks like, he says, oh, I have a long way to go. Not to feel bad about ourselves, but to aspire for more. To aspire for more. Why? Because that's Gan Eden. Having real bitachon in Hashem, having that clarity, that feeling of pleasantness that you have when you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is holding you like a baby. That's Gan Eden. That's Gan Eden in this world. Every normal human being that understands the words that are coming out of my mouth, that's what he should aspire to have. To know that a Borei Barach, the creator of all creators, may his name be blessed, he's holding me like a baby. Despite the difficulty, he's the one that's doing it. Psh, that's Gan Eden. It allows us to understand harsh stories like the Rebbe Mitzanz, the closing Rebbe, found out that out of all of his kids, one was left, 10 kids he had. The Nazis, Yimach Shimam, murdered 9 of them and his wife. Finally, the last one of the people comes to him and says, Rebbe, we just found out that your last son was murdered by the Nazis, Yimach Shimam. Was just murdered. The closing of a Rebbe, initially, was in a shock. Moments later, started smiling and continued learning Torah, doing mitzvot with passion as ever. Anyone that ever heard the recording that we publicized once of the Klosenberger Rebbe praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, regular mincha, regular prayer of the day, such passion, such love for Hashem. He, shocked for a moment, back to happiness. So they asked him, Rebbe, why were you shocked? Since it was so short, what was the shock about then? And how can you go back to happiness so quickly? The Klosenberger Rebbe says to them, my dear sons, you have to understand. When you told me that information, I was shocked. Why? I was like a little boy, lost in the woods. I didn't know what was going on. It was dark. And then suddenly, I got a hit on my back. You gave me the snooze. I got a hit, a surprise hit. I was shocked. Who hit me? Who hit me? Who did this to me? And then I looked up and said, oh, it's Abba. You found me. It's Abba. It's HaShem. Oh, okay, you did it. You're the one that took my kid. Oh, that's really your kid. You just lent him to me. Oh, okay, it's Abba. That's why I'm happy. I'm happy it's Abba. He did it. I was shocked because I didn't know who did it to me, but it only took me a second to realize that even the worst possible thing also comes from Abba. Why? Because he loves you. Because he loves you. Because all of the circumstances that were available, this was the best one. That is the highest level of bitachon. A person that has such bitachon, that is literally living in Gan Eden. That's living in heaven. Why? Because it's like having this cheat code. It's like having the blueprint of the world. Like a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave Betzalel. Betzalel was one of the people at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he had to be gifted a special divine wisdom in order to build the Aron HaKodesh. Chachamim say over there that the Aron HaKodesh had unique technology in it that was equivalent to the type of technology that a Kadosh Baruch Hu used to create the world. A Kadosh Baruch Hu gave Betzalel a unique wisdom to build this Aron HaKodesh. When a person has such bitachon as our Gedolei Ador, as our sages, our forefathers, that's like having the wisdom of Betzalel. You have the secret code to the creation. You know that everything is from HaShem. This is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved David HaMelech. Not because David HaMelech wrote Tehillim. All of the difficulties that he had, he just simply prayed to HaShem and wrote Tehillim about it. All the difficulties he had, he went back to the Beit Midrash and learned more Torah. But why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu love David HaMelech so much that he made him the fourth to carry the Shekhinah with Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, David? Why? Why didn't he make David? Because there came a time when he was running away from his son Avshalom that was trying to kill him. And at that moment of weakness, that moment of embarrassment, he sees Shimi ben Gera, the head of the Sanhedrin, that hated him though. Although he was head of the Sanhedrin, one of the biggest rabbis in the world, he was on the side of Shaul HaMelech. And he believed that David stole the kingdom from Shaul. So he hated David. So because of that, Shimi ben Gera cursed David. The worst possible curse you could have. Klala nimretzet. Klala nimretzet means he cursed him everything under the sun. He called him a womanizer. He called him a murderer. He called him a child that came out of wedlock. He called him literally everything you could do to somebody in front of everyone. And yet David HaMelech, when his head sergeant said, why should we let this dog speak to my master this way? Let me just flick my sword and chop his little head off, this dog. David HaMelech says, with 100% confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, chas v'shalom, don't do nothing to him. He is not cursing me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is allowing this to happen. That's it. If I did not deserve this curse that's coming out of Shimi ben Gera's mouth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would never let it happen. Meaning, out of all of the circumstances that were available to me at this moment, at this time, this is the best one. Chachamim say that moment when David said this, he didn't just say it, he felt it. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baal Ta'alumot, he knows what's in your heart, he knows what's hidden. He knew that's actually what David felt. And at that moment, he said, David, now you earned yourself a place next to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Until now, you were tzaddik, you were kodesh. But now, you're something else. Why? You discovered the secret code to the creation. You discovered the secret code to the creation. So the Chazon Ish is telling us here, a person that knows that this code exists, not that he discovered the whole code, he knows that he exists. He doesn't go around telling people, hey guys, here's the code, I know where the code is. If you just go to that building, it's over there. Someone that discovered a treasure doesn't announce it to the whole world. I have it, I know where it is. A person that discovered that this exists, he has a little bit of bitachon, he doesn't claim that he has the whole, he's big, he's that. No, opposite. He says, all I found is a little coin out of an entire world of treasure. I have a little coin. What do you want me to celebrate this little coin? Maybe if I compare my coin to someone that's homeless, it looks like I have something. But look at how much treasure. There's a whole world of treasure in the world of bitachon. I'm going to be happy about this? No, I'm going to show off about this little coin. I'm going to look silly next to the real people. Nah, I can't do such a thing. That's what the Chazon Ish is trying to tell us. If someone is preaching to you saying, I have bitachon, not that he says you should acquire bitachon, you should do this, you should do that. No, he's not instructing you. Opposite. He's saying, be like me. Be like me, I have bitachon. Faker. Faker alert, mayday, mayday, run away. Why? Chazon Ish says, this person, not only he is a liar, he doesn't possess any bitachon. Why? Because in order to at least show or indicate that you understand that bitachon exists, that you have one coin out of the world of coins, you have to be modest. You have to be a humble person. Cannot be. If you're showing off what you already have, that means you have the wrong treasure. You have something that looks gold, but in reality it's chocolate inside for Chanukah. That's all it is. So now the Chazon Ish says, this person bewails his own lack of bitachon and lack of perfection in this trait because he knows what's available. He knows that he can be so much greater if he continues to work on himself. His bitachon and feeling of strength based on his belief in HaShem manifests himself only in practice. How does this person really show that he has bitachon? The other one, if you don't mind. How does this person really show that he has bitachon? It's not with words. Thank you. It's not with words. Actions. Actions. He takes actions that show his bitachon. He says what? There's a need here to produce more holiness. What do we need to do? We need to open a yeshiva. We need to open an entire system to help people do tshuva. That's what we do. Yeah, but where's the money going to come? Oh, that's not my problem. What do you mean? But aren't you the one that's going to write the checks and so on? No, not really. Not necessarily. I'm just the one that's signing an application. A person that has bitachon is going to do what the Chachamim did in the previous generation. Build an entire yeshiva without having enough money to build further than the foundation. Without having enough money to build further than the foundation. You look at all the yeshivot that were built in the last 100 years in Eretz Yisrael, these weren't built by regular average people. They were built by tzaddikim. They were built by special people that didn't come from money, didn't come from treasures. The opposite. They went and they said, okay, this piece of land, we're going to buy it. What are you going to build on there? We're going to build a yeshiva, 4,000 people. What? Kvod Harav, there isn't 4,000 religious Jews in all of Eretz Yisrael at this point. It's 1940, 1930. There's barely any. What are you talking? What 4,000 people learning Torah? That means that it's not that it's 4,000. If this is 4,000 kids, 4,000 adults, 4,000 people that are dedicating their life to learning Torah, that means there has to be 4,000 families. There wasn't 30 families in all of Eretz Yisrael. What are you building it for? We're building for 4,000 people to learn here. Okay, this is the land. Okay, fine. All right. Now that we got the land, okay, start building for me. What are we building? Build a foundation for the 4,000 people. What about after? Oh, I'll tell you after. Why you didn't tell them after? There was only enough money to put the bricks on the foundation. There was only enough money to put the bricks on the foundation. That's it. There was no money for the first floor, the second floor, the bathroom, nothing. There was just foundation. That's it. That's all I have. When you finish that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send me enough money for the next level of the foundation, and the next level, and the next level. To have such bitachon where you're already moving forward, building an empire of Kedusha, without having any idea where you're going to have money to eat, needless to say, to build this place, that's only operates with bitachon. But you think that bitachon was just simply something they got in a book? Chazon Ish says, this comes to actions. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you the opportunity. Listen again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you the opportunity by throwing you into the water. He throws you into the water. He throws you into a difficulty. And you find a way to swim. You find a way to swim. And you thank him for throwing you in the water. That's bitachon. That's what our tzaddikim had. That's what our tzaddikim have. That's Am Yisrael that's unique from all other nations. HaKadosh Baruch Hu throws us into a difficulty. He tells us, listen, this community, everything is upside down according to the Torah over there. Everything is upside down. The rabbis are heretics. The people are not doing anything. The women have no arms and no legs, which is a Gemara term for women that don't cover their arms and legs. Gemara calls them as, they have no arms and no legs. Said, oh, perfect, I want to build a yeshiva there. What? What, do you have extra money to burn? No, I don't even have the money to build that. So why are you doing it? There's a need. Obviously, there's no arms and no legs because there's no Torah. Obviously, the rabbis are heretics because there's no one challenging them. So there has to be something that challenges them. There has to be some emet. Here. This, Rabotai, is what our tzaddikim did generation after generation. Didn't look for the neighborhood that had the most amount of Jews, and therefore the easiest way to go donate, to collect money, and then they build the yeshiva. They went to the middle of nowhere and they built. They build yeshivot, they build Batei Knesiot. Most importantly, they build a place for Torah. The Bet Knesset of the past is not like the Bet Knesset of today. The synagogues of today are not the same thing as the synagogues of the past. In the past is a place where Bet Knesset was a place where there's non-stop Torah. Non-stop Torah. There wasn't just, oh yeah, we go, we pray, we leave. We go, we socialize, we leave. You look at, for example, not even that long ago, a couple 100 years ago, in Syria, in Aleppo, the Bet Knesset, the synagogue, was the community. It wasn't part of the community. The Bet Knesset HaGadol in Aleppo, that was the community. As soon as you woke up, you went to the Bet Knesset. You prayed. You did some work during the day, whatever you had to do, but you kept going back to the Bet Knesset. You kept going back to the Bet Knesset. Motzei Shabbat. No one is sitting there looking, oh, let's go watch a show. No. As soon as Shabbat is finished, everyone ran to the Bet Knesset. Why? There's a shiur. A shiur at the Bet Knesset HaGadol. What shiur? We just had Shabbat. Didn't we learn on Shabbat? Yes, and? But there's shiur now. What's shiur going to be now? MUSSAR, Pirkei Avot, Gehenom, scare you to death. Why? The week is starting. You need to make sure to have Yirat Shamayim. So that's what they would teach. The Keilah, the Syrian Jews in Aleppo. That's what they would teach Motzei Shabbat. The whole community would go into the synagogue. Why? That was the community. That was the community. That's how Batei Knesset, that's how synagogues were in previous generations. Same thing in Europe, same thing in a middle, everywhere. That's what the Bet Knesset was. It wasn't today like a social club. Oh yeah, I'm going to go there. I think the rabbi bought some extra scotch today, so maybe we're going to have a good time. None of that garbage existed. Back then, the Bet Knesset was a house of Torah. A house of Torah. So much so that just a few 100 years ago, they used to have a cell like you put prisoners in, at the opening, at the front door of the Bet Knesset. For who? Anyone who insulted the Rabbanim would be put, or did something horrific, would be put into that cell and left in there, and everyone that would go in to the Bet Knesset, they would spit in their face on the way inside. You insulted the rabbi? Puh! You insulted the rabbi? Puh! The whole Keilah, 300 people spitting at this guy's face. Why? You insulted you insulted our Rav? You insulted the Shaliach of HaShem? You didn't have to wait for Mashiach. You had the Mashiach in your Keilah. That's the way we viewed our Chachamim. All over the world, not just the Sfaradim, the Ashkenazim, none of that garbage. Each one, of course, had their own way of honoring the Rabbanim, but the point being is that the Beit Knesset was a place of Torah. That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu kept them, despite so many enemies that we had that wanted to destroy us. Today that we have the luxury to have an endless amount of land, an endless amount of money, it seems like, an endless amount of everything, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shut down all of the Beit Knesset in the world. Doesn't that tell us something? Doesn't that give us a message? People think, oh yeah, but you could still pray on Zoom. What Zoom? What are you talking about? Don't you see the rebuke from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We had people that wanted to kill us just a few hundred years ago, yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu will continue allowing us to build a Beit Knesset inside an anti-Semitic community. Today we have entire neighborhoods where you won't even find a non-Jew, but the Beit Knesset is closed. Doesn't that give us a little bit of a message? Doesn't that give us a little bit of an indication that we need to do something about our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Something went wrong here. See, Rabotai, Bitachon BeHashem was not something that we just found in a book and therefore we read it and we know it. Bitachon is something we had in practice. And that's what the Chazon Ish says, that even the one that has bitachon is humble about having it. And the only way you would ever know that he has it, that he possesses it, is not going to be from the words that come out of his mouth. Chas v'shalom coming out of his mouth. He doesn't even think he has it. The only way you will ever know that he has bitachon is simply by watching how he lives. Look at this fellow Jew. Look how much confidence in Hashem he has. He simply walks on water while the rest of us are barely drowning. He simply just goes with Hashem. In day-to-day life, not a worry in the world. He will not be afraid, the Chazon Ish says. If his friend opens a store, in fact, he will make efforts to help him. Give him good advice, assist him in general, be concerned for his welfare. There was a very famous printing place called MUSSAR. All of the wedding invitations, all of the pishkevilim, anyone that wanted anything printed, MUSSAR was a place that everyone went to for 60 years. The old man running it was there. Everyone knew you needed something. That's where you printed. There's an invitation, there's a wedding, there's a bar mitzvah, there's a siyum shas. Whatever it is, you want to print something, that's where you go. There's a book, you print it there. One day, someone decided they're going to open also a printing place. So, fine. You could find many other places. No, I want to open it over there. Why are you going to do this to the old man? He's already old. Some of his friends told him, why? He's already old. He's probably going to retire at some point. Go print, go do somewhere else. Let him live the rest of his life. And then eventually you can move over here. Why do you have to do it now? No. I'm going to try. I'm going to try over here. Long story short, even though he tried actually opening everywhere else, the only place that was available for him to rent, to start his place, after he bought the machines already and made the investments, literally across the street from the printing press, from MUSSAR. Across the street. What is he going to do? Such is life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided this one I'm going to open, this one I'm going to open. On the first day he opens the store, he sees the old man from MUSSAR walking his way with something in his hand. He sees the old man, he's walking slow. He's not exactly scared for his life. Maybe he's going to throw a bottle of water at him or something, maybe splash him or something, yell at him, give him a few curses from the Torah. Why are you opening here? What's the matter with you? This is my business for 60 years. You're stealing my food. You're stealing my parnasah. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm an old man. That's in essence what you would expect. Today, somebody opens a place 5 miles from you. people complain about. Oh, he's on my turf. He's in my town. What, do you own the world? Well, you took a lease on the entire planet? Oh, why is he getting into this business? What, you own the whole industry? That's the mind of people. So this guy that started this little printing shop, he figured that the old man is coming because he's been there for 60 years. He's probably upset. So he's going to tell him a few words, but he's going to tell the guy. He already had his response ready. What is it? He's like, listen, I'm sorry, but I tried looking at other places, but this is where Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted me to be. I'm opening here. What can I do? I'm here. I need to make parnasah. The old man comes in, and he says to him, opens the bag, he sees there's a bottle of wine and a nice cake. He says, Mazal Tov, welcome, Chazaku Baruch, Mazal Tov. The guy's like, he's joking, there's poison in the cake maybe, there's a little poison in the wine, what Mazal Tov? And then he gets the surprise of his life. The old man says to him, Mazal Tov, Chazaku Baruch, listen, it's here. He takes out a book. He goes, here you go. This is a list of all of the best vendors. All the best vendors, because you're going to need paper, but you're going to waste a lot of time, different places, different prices. These are the best people to buy paper from, the best prices. This is the best place for you need your equipment fixed. This is the best guys for fixing it. This, you need plastic, you need different types of material. This is the guys. He gives him a list of all of his vendors. The guy's shocked. Why? What's going to help you? It's going to help you. Why are you going to, you're going to be in business? You need to make a living. You're going to go waste your time going to this vendor, spend extra money. You're not going to make a living. You need to make a living, right? So why would you spend $2 on paper when you can get it for $1.50? This is going to save you a lot of time. But also, there's also here, this second page here, this is a list of customers. These are my customers. You call them and tell them you want to do business with them. They'll buy from you. They're good customers. You got them. It's tough for me to deal. I have too many. So here, take some customers to start you up so you can make a living. You make parnasah. Wait. Not only you say Mazal Tov, not only you bring a cake and wine, on top of that you give me all the best vendors, and on top of that you're giving me some of your customers? Yeah. Oh HaShem, Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov. The guy obviously has a shock of his life. But better yet, the owner of Mea Shearim over there, his sons said, Abba, we know you're a tzaddik. We know you're a tzaddik, there's no question. But we just don't understand something. The fact that you're not worried that, he opened across the street, you say Mazal Tov, okay, but said you're a tzaddik, okay, fine. The fact that, you brought him wine and cake, okay, you're Baruch Hashem. But why would you give him your vendors? And even more, why would you give him your customers? Okay, let's say you want to save him some money and some headache, and that's why you gave him the vendors so he could make a decent living. Okay, fine, you're a big tzaddik. But why would you give him your parnasah? Why would you give him your customers? Without skipping a beat, he says to them, Banaya Yekarim, my dear sons, don't you know the Gemara says in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Masechet BeIt, both on page 16, don't you know the Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rachmana Libaba, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all he wants your heart, he already decided your parnasah on Rosh Hashanah until Rosh Hashanah. He already decided what your parnasah is going to be. He decided what your parnasah is going to be. The only thing that's excluded is how much you spend on mitzvot. You spend 10,000 on mitzvot, he adds that to your parnasah. You spend 20,000 on tzedakah for a good cause, he adds that to your parnasah. You spend 5, 15, $50,000 on Shabbat, on tefillin, on all the mitzvot of the Torah, he adds that to your parnasah. But nonetheless, your parnasah was decided from Rosh Hashanah until Rosh Hashanah. So why should I be worried? He said, but you give him your customers. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to make 100, I'll make 100 with or without those customers. What's the question? Okay, Abba, we understand you have the ultimate emunah. Fine. Can you at least explain to us the cake? What's the cake about? What's the why? Okay, so let's say you want to help him out and give him, okay, fine. You want to give him your customers because you have emunah, you believe a Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you money, no problem, fine. You give him the vendors to save him some money, fine. Why the cake? Shouldn't he give you a cake? Or even more, shouldn't he give you a piece maybe, commission? Like one guy, one time I called a guy, I said, listen, do you do a certain type of job, we need to do something for our BeEzrat HaShem organization? No, I don't do it, but I could call somebody for you, but let me do it, and because that way I can make commission on the deal. I said, well, you can't just give me the name and I can just call them? Why? I need to make money, but it's not your business. Yeah, but I'm giving you the name. No? Shouldn't I make some money out of that? That's the way people think today. The owner of Mea Sharim said to him, listen, the Parnasah says, give him Shamayim. I gave him a cake because finally there's somebody here that can help me. You see, for 60 years I've been here. I can never close my shop. Why? There's nobody else. If somebody has a bar mitzvah, if somebody has a funeral, if there's anything that's going on, I'm the only one here. I can never take a break. So Baruch Hashem that he opened the shop. So now I can finally take a break. That's why I gave him a cake to thank him. So why the wine? He says, oh, if I'm already going to take a break, I'm going to take a full break. Baruch Hashem, celebrate. Gab l'chaim. That's the mind of a Jew that has complete bitachon be'Hashem in regards to his parnasah. He knows not only where the money comes from, he knows that no one can get in the way of his parnasah. No one can steal your job. No one can steal your customers. No one can hurt a penny that belongs in your pocket. If Hashem allows him to take something from you, don't think that, oh, he stole it from me. No. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took it from you and he used them. That doesn't mean that they're good people and they could do whatever they want or you could do whatever you want. No. But what it means is that no one could hurt you or help you without HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowing it. This tzaddik knew exactly where the money was coming from. He knew exactly what to rely on. He knew exactly where to look for parnasah. And he also knew how to look at it in a positive way, in such a beautiful way to bless Hashem that finally, Baruch Hashem, not only is Hashem blessing me with parnasah, but now he's also going to bless me to give me a little bit more time to maybe learn some more Torah, get connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu even deeper, because now I don't have to work as much. Because there's somebody else that can provide a service for other people. This, Rabotai, is a person that has bitachon. Having such a mindset is literally like living in Gan Eden. It's living in Gan Eden. Why? You know who's running the show? Today, unfortunately, we have so many people that do horrific things in their business due to their lack of bitachon. In fact, all of the worst crimes when it comes to business and many other times when it comes to sins altogether come as a result of lack of bitachon in Hashem. When a person steals from his customers, why does he steal? Because he doesn't have confidence that Hashem will give him the money that he needs or the money that he wants in a kosher way. So he calls people and he tells them, hi, listen, we're selling ABC. It's brand new and I'm giving it to you for a discount, only $10,000. In reality, it's not even worth $1,000. On top of that, it's not brand new, it's refurbished. And worst of all, it's not even ABC. It's a completely different product. You're making pretend like it's ABC. He knows it. The customer's going to eventually know it. But he still does it. When the customer comes back, says, hey, listen, you sold me the wrong product. It's not only not the same product, it's not even new, it's not even this, it's not even worth $10,000. Hey, listen, you had a receipt, and there was the print over here, small print, you see with the magnifying glass, said it's up to you to check according to the law of the corrupt government, that you have to check all these things, and since you signed that you received it, that's it, no return, you're past your 7 days, you're past your 24 hours, you're past your 14 days. No, yeah, but you cheated me. Hey, listen, if you want, you could sue us. And he knows that most people are not going to sue. He knows that most people are too busy to do that. And he knows he's going to stick them, and he does it time and time again. And unfortunately, there are and there always have been businesses built on such corruption, built on, from the start, stealing, from the start, cheating. We've spoken about the cash advance business many times, and it's never going to be enough. Why? There are still ads that you see left and right inside the Jewish world of people say sales job specifically for cash advance industry. Sales experience required or sometimes not required. Need to be aggressive. Want to make millions of dollars. Blah, blah, blah. They don't tell you they're going to be murdering people financially. They don't tell you they're going to be destroying their life. No, they tell you, you come, make a lot of money. They know they're cheating. Why? They're getting sued. They're getting prosecuted. They're getting a lot of problems. But they know they continue. Why? It's worth it for them because they figure, yes, and the lawsuits will just, we'll cheat and we'll use that extra money to pay for lawyers and get out of jail and do this and do that. And the guys that come work there, in the beginning, they don't know left or right, but within a few minutes, they realize it's not good. Why? There's enough information out there to know that the whole business is corrupt. And it's not just cash advance business. It's everything from water filtration to real estate to all types of other types of businesses, windows treatment, fixing houses, roofing. Literally in every industry, you're going to find a group of corrupt, horrible people that it's not that they just ran into corruption, they ran into cheating, they ran into it and they started by cheating on day one. They started their electronics business cheating on day one. The whole premise of the business was to build it by cheating people. And it's the same thing with countless businesses, countless industries, and people do it. And sometimes, Rabotai, sometimes they have a kippah bigger than mine. Sometimes they have a beard much longer than mine because it grows by itself. Sometimes they have peot, longer than the exile. But so is their list of sins and how many people they destroyed their lives with their, and how much chilul Hashem they do. And they know it. Why do they continue? They figured, I need to do this. Why? I want to give a lot. I want to do a lot of good. But since I don't have the ability to do a lot of good with the little that I have, if I cheat, if I lie, if I scheme, then I'll be able to do this good. Where does that evil come from? That's the bitachon from the Yetzer Hara. That's the bitachon from the Yetzer Hara. The guy says, I'm going to do good, but since I can't do good in a normal way, because I don't have bitachon in Hashem, I'm going to have bitachon in the Yetzer Hara. I'm going to have bitachon in the Satan, that he's going to help me make money cheating, lying, scheming, and then I'll do good. Then I'll donate to the yeshiva, and I'll donate to this, and I'll donate to that, and they pretend like they're going to do good, and some of them even actually donate to do good. And guess what? Nothing good comes out of it, even though they may build buildings. You'll see that those buildings are full of corruption. They're full of cheating also. They're full of filthy things. It's not a happenstance. It's not a coincidence that you see that some of these buildings have pedophilia and all types of filth in it. Heretics, bred like by the dozens. Students graduate yeshiva without even knowing who Hashem is. It's not a coincidence. It's because the foundation for some of these places came from money that was practically stolen. Unethical business practices, either by the people that built the building, funded the building, or even running the building. This, Rabotai, all stems from lack of bitachon. Not having bitachon in Hashem that He's going to provide you in a kosher way. That if Hashem wants you to have a certain amount, you don't need to cheat. You don't need to lie. You don't even need to add anything to the application that may or may not affect it, and in reality is not insignificant. You don't need to do anything. You need to simply be like a sargel, a ruler, straight as an arrow. Straight as an arrow. You don't want to do nothing. Why? If you have bitachon Hashem, there's no reason for you to steer right or left. When a person does acts of kindness for someone who intends to compete with him, the world is enriched by this additional holiness. Because of this action, more honor and praise are showered on his faithful. and happy are this people in his generation. Here the Chazon Ish says, Kol Israel Aravim ze lazeh. All of Am Yisrael are responsible for each other, affect each other, are connected to each other. But here, when someone has such high level of bitachon, such high level of confidence in Hashem that he actually helps his competition. He says, oh, you open a store next door to me, same exact business, let me help you. I'll give you some of my vendors to save you some time. If you need any help of finding certain this, certain this, I'll help you, no problem. Such a high level of bitachon, the Chazon Ish says, produces kedusha, produces holiness in the world. Now the question is, what does holiness have anything to do with bitachon? We understand that bitachon is fantastic, it's great. But what does that have to do with holiness? Look no further than Parashat Kedoshim, where Kadosh Baruch Hu says to us, Kedoshim to you, ki kadosh ani. You be holy because I am holy. Meaning, to show that you are my children, to show that you are dear to me, that I'm dear to you, you do what I do. You be holy because I am holy. And the Maharal says, someone that's stingy, obviously this comes from a lack of bitachon, is ma'us be'enei Hashem. He's really something that Hashem does not like. He despises such a person. Doesn't like stingy people. Why? Because it's the opposite of Hashem, where Hashem only gives. So when someone has bitachon be'Hashem, that means it's going to make him generous. That means it's going to make them someone that is glued to Hashem. Hashem says, that's my son. That's my daughter. That's it. That's the one. Yeah, the one looks like me. That's the one looks like me. Yeah. See, they give like I give. They do like I do. That's my son. That's it. You can't miss him. Can't miss. 500 people are around him. 500 people are around her. Not a single one is giving. See his giving? That's my son. You can't miss him. That's it. Why? You know why he does it? Because he's my son. I'm holy, so he's holy. That's how you know. That's it. It's not about having the same eyebrows and the same ears and the same mouth and the same nose. No, you be holy because I am holy, Kadosh Baruch Hu says. You be holy because I am holy. You do holy things because I do. You have bitachon by being generous by your actions. That shows that you're my son. That shows that you're my daughter. So when a person does such high level of or shows such high level of bitachon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says this produces even more holiness in the world, which will affect him, affect the world that he's in, affect his entire generation. That store owner at Mea Shearim literally impacted his entire generation of perhaps people that never even heard of him, actually benefited as a result of his actions. Because there was more good that came to the world as a result of the kedusha that he produced that day. More good came to the world. More good health came to the world. More panasah came to the world. More happiness came to the world. More good came to the world as a result of something that literally took him 5 minutes to do, but a lifetime to build. And as a result of it, the entire generation benefited out of it. Sometimes you get something, where did this come from? It could be because of some tzaddik that did something really good to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, I know it's you. Hashem, I know it's you. That tzaddik affected you. Yeah, you live in a different country, you never even heard of him, you got affected. Same in the contrary. Somebody that's violates Shabbat, somebody that wastes seed. They don't think, it's just me, it's my life. Wrong. Gemara says, people that make certain sins, such as immorality, wasting seed, chilul Shabbat, things that of a ni'uf, chilul Shabbat is not immorality, but big sins like this, they bring problems to the whole world. So much so that even speaking Lashon Hara brings death to Am Yisrael soldiers. Brings death to Am Yisrael soldiers because you spoke Lashon Hara. When you make sins, like it or don't like it, it's very possible that someone's going to die as a result of it. Why? Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh. You do good, you bring more good to the world. You do bad, Hashem Yishmo. Hashem Yishmo. This is why a person needs to know there is no such thing. Oh, you're my brother because our forefather is Moshe Rabbeinu. No, Habibi. You are my brother if you act like my brother. Not because we're both connected to the same forefather. No. You're my brother and I'll love you like a brother if you treat me like a brother. Brothers care for each other. Now, I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for a room to live in. I'm just asking you to observe the Torah. Why? When you observe the Torah, more good comes to the world that can impact me. When you violate the Torah, you are hurting me. So you want to be my brother? You have to be my brother in mitzvot. That's why amitecha, anytime the Torah says amitecha, your nation, means your nation in mitzvot, which also includes Lashon Hara. When you say Lashon Hara, as I explained during the holidays, we had our 9-hour shiur, Baruch Hashem. We elaborated on the mitzvah of Lashon Hara, of Tinok Shenishba, and so on. And one of the things that the Chafetz Chaim elaborates on is that any time he talks about Lashon Hara being a sin, that's only when it's pertaining to amitecha, to your own nation, meaning your own nation in mitzvot. If you're saying Lashon Hara against a kosher Jew, a Jew that keeps Shabbat, keeps Taharat Mishpacha, keeps kosher, so on, that's Lashon Hara. You have a very serious problem. You're bringing problems to the world, not just to your life. You're bringing problems to the world. But if you're saying Lashon Hara against some kofir, some heretic, some person that doesn't care about Hashem, some person that just pretends like he cares about Hashem while violating all of the mitzvot, it's not even a sin. It's not recommended to do nonetheless, but it's not a sin. Why? He's not your brother. Why? He is a person that's bringing you problems with his sins. Now, of course, if you have an opportunity, you bring him closer, you educate him, you say, listen, Achi, you call me brother, but in reality, we're not brothers. Why? Because right now you're hurting me. But I'm going to try, because we have the same ancestors, and technically we can be brothers, in a second when you decide to keep Shabbat. In a second we can become dear brothers, that I have to love you as much as I love myself. If you just keep Shabbat, if you keep Taharat Mishpacha, if you keep the basics of Judaism, instantly we become brothers. You try to help him. You try to do whatever you can for him. But it's very important for you to know that if he refuses, if he insults, if he mocks, you have no responsibility whatsoever for this person. You can say Lashon Hara, you don't say Lashon Hara, doesn't make a difference. Why? He's not part of Amitecha. Not part of Amitecha. Now the reason why we say it's not recommended anyway, because you don't want to get yourself used to saying Lashon Hara or doing bad things to anybody. Needless to say, someone that could potentially be your brother. But this also comes with our understanding of our responsibility in the world. The Chafetz Chaim one time had a store, and to say that the Chafetz Chaim had bitachon is obviously an understatement, but you'll understand a little bit more from this story. Chafetz Chaim saw that a lot of people are coming to his store, packed. He decided, it's so busy here, surely the other businesses are getting hurt because of it. The other businesses are getting hurt. Everybody's coming to me. Because everyone knew the Chafetz Chaim is not only honest, he's generous. You buy $100 worth of goods from him, he gives you 120. So it's worth it for business too. Chafetz Chaim says, no. Everybody's coming to me, it's too much. 2 hours a day. That's it. We're closed 22 hours a day. We're open only 2 hours a day. So what would happen during those 2 hours? The whole world would line up outside of the store waiting for him to open. After he saw this is not really rectifying the issue, people are still coming to him. He says, okay, that's it. We're closing shop. He shut down the store and just let a few customers know, okay, listen, you come at a specific time on this day. You can buy from me if you want. You and a couple of people, that's it. So they asked him, Rebbe, you have a good, successful business. Everybody wants to buy from you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you blessing. Why are you shutting it down? Why are you rejecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu's blessing? He says, Chas v'shalom. He says, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give me blessing, he'll give me blessing from whoever is going to end up coming, even if it's one customer. But why should I get a blessing, but at the same time hurt other people? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give me blessing, he'll give me blessing with 5 customers that I have. There's no need for me to have 5,000 customers and end up hurting other people. 5 customers enough for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give me the blessing. That was the mind of the Chafetz Chaim. That was the life of the Chafetz Chaim. That was the actions of the Chafetz Chaim. It's not a coincidence that his Torah was publicized in every corner of the world. There are many Chachamim, there are many Tzaddikim, but the ones that actually became extremely famous, it wasn't just because of their intellect and their wisdom. There was more to it. To become a tzaddik, it's not like to become a smart person in the secular world. You work for DeepMind or something, or you work for for NASA, or you work for one of these major organizations of smart people. That's not like our tzaddikim. Our tzaddikim, first of all, much smarter than any DeepMind employee will ever have. But on top of it, they were geniuses when it came to their avodat Hashem, their servitude of Hashem. They perfected their character in the highest possible level. Chafetz Chaim knew well that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's blessing is going to come one way or the other. And one time, when a non-Jewish woman came to a store and she bought a salted fish, she forgot the fish on the counter. Now, since Chafetz Chaim doesn't look at women, he didn't know what the woman looked like. But he knew that there was a woman that bought the fish and she walked away. So, he looked around, realized he has no idea how to find this woman. What did the Chafetz Chaim do? Now, if you look at the halacha, what does the halacha say? Halacha says, technically, if a non-Jew makes a mistake on his own, not that you influenced him to make a mistake, he made a mistake on his own. He counted 10 bills to give you $10. Not paying attention, he counted 10 hundreds, he gave you $1,000. In reality, you're supposed to tell him, listen, you sure you counted the right way? You sure you counted the right way? If he says, no, I'm sure, just take it, go, I gotta go. He makes that kind of a mistake, you're allowed to take it. He loses a wallet, even if it has his ID, you find it, you don't have to give it back to him. That's the halacha. But that's not what tzaddikim do. Tzaddikim do, they return it. They return it and they make sure you know I return it because I'm a Jew. I return it because I'm serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the one and only God. The Chafetz Chaim did not think about this for a second more than he needed to. As soon as he realized there's no way that he could identify this non-Jewish woman and who she is, what did he do? He took a bunch of fish to give every single household in the community of the non-Jews and give them a fish, a salted fish. Why? That way, for sure, the woman that forgot the fish, surely she's going to get it. Somebody told him, Kvod Arav, she forgot the fish, you could have simply benefited out of it. Not only did you not benefit out of it, you ended up losing an enormous amount of money. He says, who cares about losing money? It's a possibility of gezel here, of possibly stealing, or even if it's not stealing, but it could be viewed as stealing, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu's name could potentially be affected by it, even a microcosm of it. Chas v'shalom, that such a thing will happen with my hands. Chas v'shalom! That's a person that's not only smart, that's a person that's kadosh, that's a holy person, that knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one and only that decides how much money you're going to make. Yeah, but I ended up taking a loss. Okay, took a loss. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give it back to you, we'll give it back to you. He doesn't want to give it back to you, he won't give it back to you. This is the mind of a Jew, of what it's supposed to be like. The Chazon Ish says to us that such a person brings, with such high level of bitachon, brings kedusha to the world, holiness to the world, which in essence helps the entire generation. As light differs from darkness, truth differs from falsehood, and the true kind of bitachon in Hashem differs from falsehood. He says it may be difficult for a person to understand the difference between one type of apple and a different type of apple. But when it comes to having bitachon or not having bitachon, when a person knows what bitachon is, clearly he or she should be able to know the difference between real bitachon and fake bitachon. Why? The difference is as apparent as light and darkness. Real bitachon and fake bitachon are as different from each other as light is from darkness. As light is from darkness. Now, if a person is still not able to tell the difference of which person in their life has bitachon or doesn't have bitachon, that doesn't mean that they have it and you just can't tell, or they don't have it. No. It means you yourself don't know yet enough about bitachon to tell the difference between real one or fake one. And you need to work on it. Doesn't make you a bad person, just makes you ignorant of what you need to know. And therefore, you need to learn more about it. Now, the beauty of the Torah is that when a person has bitachon, he could do things that to the world around him will make him seem like he is supernatural. And sometimes it's apparent that you don't necessarily need to know a lot of Torah in order to have bitachon. Because sometimes the emunah and the bitachon of the simple people is higher than some learned people. It's a very famous story for this time of the year that we have, Chanukah, that happened in Morocco many years ago, where the evil king in Morocco at the time decided to make a decree and torture the Jewish people. Surely in every generation, we've had a Haman or two come against us. There were times in Morocco they had a good king that respected the Jewish people and honored them. And there were times that we had kings that hated the Jews and were anti-Semitic and even murdered many of us. As some may know, the very famous story about the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali was a Ish Kadosh. His whole family came from Morocco, and he himself, the Baba Sali, and his whole family were extremely holy people for one of the old Abu Chatzira family, one of the oldest families in Judaism. Still today, Baruch HaShem. And he himself, as holy as he was, he got into a depression for, I think it was about 4 years. He wouldn't leave the house, didn't leave the bed. Why? Because he saw his older brother, by senior to him by over 21 years, who was one of the Gdolei Adol, his brother. His brother was one of the giants of the generation, was a Dayan, was the head rabbi in Morocco, was something extraordinary. And the evil Imach Shimov Yitzchok, the king at the time, or some general at the time, decided to make an example out of him, and not only murdered him, but murdered him in such a fashion that it literally imprinted into anyone who saw it or even heard about it. They tied him to a tree and then shot him with a cannon. So when the Baba Sali saw this, he couldn't reason, he couldn't think, he couldn't do anything. He got into a depression for years, and only got out of it when his own dear brother, was an enormous tzaddik, came to him in a dream and said, "Get up and go back out and do KIRUV and help Am Yisrael do tshuva and publicize Torah and do good things. Stop being upset about it. There's nothing to be upset. Look, I'm here with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov." He came to him in a dream with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He goes, "What are you upset about? This had to happen. It had to happen because such and such." Now, of course, you could say bitachon, but sometimes there's certain things that happen that makes even the great among us lose our mind. The Rambam himself, the Rambam, Kodesh Kodashim, who could even say anything wrong about the Rambam? Same thing with the Baba Sali. Who can say anything wrong? The Rambam, when he found out that his brother was lost in sea and never to be seen again, got into a very, very serious depression, very difficult to deal with. Forced himself to go back into the Torah world and so on as a result of having to do it. But the point is, it was a very, very difficult situation. He suffered for it his whole life. But you see, Rabotai, there are certain times where these difficult times allowed Am Yisrael to sparkle, to have shining light come out in the darkness. Where during one of these times in Morocco, where one of the evil kings wanted to make the life of the Jewish people difficult, he decided that this year he forbid the Jewish people from lighting the menorah in their houses and in the big Bet Knesset that they had, the big synagogue that they had. So, this is the decree that he had, but yet, on the first night of Chanukah, to everyone's surprise, a light comes out from a menorah at the window of the big Bet Knesset. The king is baffled. These Jewish people are going against me. What's going on? Let's go get them. They go and there's nobody there. Why? His own guards are watching that no one comes in, no one comes out. He says, who came in here? They said, Your Highness, no one came in here. We've been here all night. Not a single person came in, not a single person came out. He goes, how is the light on? He says, Your Highness, we have no idea. We saw the same thing as you. 1 second it wasn't lit, second it's lit. We have no idea. King goes back. The next night, second candle, lit again. The king is baffled. Who's doing it? Goes to the place. No one is there. The soldiers are looking. No one is there. And the same continues for the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day of Chanukah. All 8 days of Chanukah, every day there's more light. Another candle is lit for everyone to see. All of the Jews are dancing inside their hearts quietly to see this miracle that's happening in front of everybody's eyes. But no one knows how, who, what, when, and how, except one person. Who? The little boy that's lighting the candles. After 8 days are lit, the Kedusha is made, the miracle is shown. Suddenly, the soldiers come in to look during the day. Is anybody here? And they see there's a kid. There's a kid hiding. He looks sickly. He looks something. What are you doing here, kid? They grab him and they bring him to the king. And the king says, so it's you? You're the one that lit the candles for Chanukah, for your holiday? And the little boy says, yes, Your Highness, I lit the candles. But I forbid you to lit the candles. I said no lighting the candles. And the little boy simply responded, but we always light candles. Our rabbi said to light candles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to light. We always light candles for Chanukah. I couldn't understand a Chanukah without the candles. Without the menorah being lit. I couldn't understand such a reality. And the king is frustrated as can be. And he's about to murder this kid in cold blood. He wants to understand. What do you mean? You're not even hiding it? I said not to light the candles. And the boy simply responds, but there's always candles in Hanukkah. How could there not be Hanukkah candles? The king then miraculously switches thoughts. He said, wait a minute. How did you enter? How did you enter with my guards being at every gate? And the boy says, I didn't enter. As soon as I heard that the king had a decree that we're not allowed to light the candles, I just hid inside the synagogue. And how did you get out? I didn't get out, says the boy. Well, where did you eat and where did you drink? And the boy says to him, I didn't eat and I didn't drink for 8 days. Suddenly, this evil king's heart softens when he realizes what he had in front of him. An open miracle in front of his eyes. A little boy doesn't eat, doesn't drink for 8 days. If we don't eat or don't drink for 8 hours, worries, I'm starving. 8 days he didn't eat, didn't drink, and he's alive to tell the story. And it's not even comprehensible. Why would you even do it? without having complete bitachon in Hashem, complete confidence in Hashem, blind faith in Hashem that everything is going to be okay, regardless of what okay means. That moment, the king's heart softened, and he says, you stayed there for 8 days with no food and no water? And the boy says, yes. He says, go home, kid. Get something to eat. He doesn't hurt a hair on his head. And this is one of those Hanukkah miracles. That's not a miracle that it just happened by itself, that Hashem decided to split the ocean. No. Someone had to jump into the water like Nachshon ben Aminadav jumped into the water in order to show some type of an effort to show Hashem that we believe in Him, that we have confidence in Him, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu splits the water. The boy jumped in to the water and figured out how to swim after. This is what bitachon is. Having bitachon in Hashem is not one of those things where you could just create it out of nothing. Sometimes you have to make a big step. Now, as I mentioned earlier, during the last several years, we've spoken about how there's a very serious problem in the Jewish world today when it comes to certain sins. And one of them, I can tell you, is a sin that's affecting the frum world more than it is the religious world. And that sin is the whole issue of immodesty. Now, why does immodesty affect the frum world more than the religious world, more than the secular world? Because some of this immodesty comes from the frum world, where women say they believe that they're religious because they keep Shabbat and so on, but they do certain things that are the opposite of what halacha is. For example, and most notably, is the whole issue of immodest wigs. Now, wigs, even for the few poskim that have said it's permissible, they never ever allowed the wigs that look like real hair. They never ever allowed wigs that are very long. That's something that was adopted from the goyim, from the movie stars and the prutzot of the goyim. And unfortunately, it's infected our people. But this is not necessarily the biggest argument that we've brought over the last few years. The main thing that we've brought is the issue that what was unknown to almost everybody for many years became known and apparent in the last few years, which is that the supplier of the overwhelming majority of wigs today is India. And it's not in the form of them selling the hair to the supplier, but rather it's the supplier getting that hair for free from its congregants as a part of their idolatry, where they bring their hair as a sacrifice to their false god. And that's why there's an unlimited amount of supply for hair in India, which is nothing that anyone can challenge, nothing that anyone can compete with. You know, free hair is always better than even $1 as far as the purchaser buying it from the actual source. So they're obviously always going to have the best prices. On top of it, when someone is doing it the way they are, which is tonsuring the head and cutting it from the root, the hair is always going to be better quality. So that's why the Remy hair is from India and why it's known as the best quality hair. Third and most important is that that's the reason why it's such a surplus, because the Hindu people in India have literally between 50 to 100 million people. 50 to 100 million people. And yes, this is a slightly revised number from the previous numbers we managed, much higher than we thought. 50 to 100 million people donating their hair annually, every year. And they can do that when you have a civilization, a country with nearly 1.5 billion people. So you have an enormous amount of people donating their hair that even if, let's say, it became fashionable for the people of Brazil or the people of Argentina or the people of Chile or the people of whatever country you want to pick, they decide to start shaving their head, they still could not compete with 50 to 100 million people that are tonsuring their hair every year, because it's more than most countries even have altogether. And even if, let's say, all of Brazil shaved their head in 1 year, guess what? They can't do it the next year. Why? It takes a long time to build a full long length of hair. That means that they'll kill their entire market supply in 1 year. Whereas the Hindus in India, they can do it every single year and constantly have a surplus every single year, because there's more and more people doing it because they have so many people. So they have the best price, the best quality, and the most amount of supply. This is a perfect equation for them providing the overwhelming majority, and by that I mean literally well over 95% of the wigs in the world today, specifically the ones that come into the Jewish world. There is no way that your wig is coming really from Brazil, or it's really coming from Russia, or it's really coming from any of these markets without it having some type of connection to India, if not altogether in being Indian hair. This for sure is something that we've seen, we've researched, we've reviewed trade records, import, export. There's countless information that we've provided over the years. But one thing that I mentioned some time ago, but apparently it seems like Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to mention it again, because a few people have mentioned this to me, even though I mentioned it before in the last few days, and apparently we want to bring it to people's attention. Because sometimes you have to say something twice in order for people to really get the point. You see, the reason why we are in a situation that we're in today is not necessarily known for sure by anyone other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But you can pinpoint specific things, as our Torah tells us to do. We always have to review our actions and see where did we go wrong in order for this to be potentially a measure for measure. So we know that, okay, many synagogues weren't really being treated like synagogues. They were more likely social clubs, more likely places of not exactly Kedusha. Hence the reason it makes sense that most, if not all, synagogues are shut down around the world throughout this whole coronavirus. It's been a tragedy. Barely you can find a minyan, and if you find a minyan, you have to pretty much be scared that one of the Muslim in your neighborhood perhaps is not calling the cops on you. So, praying in a minyan, praying in a synagogue has not been the same over this last year. Needless to say, the yeshivot, the Jewish schools, have had countless problems. We already had problems before coronavirus, where in New York, in California, in England, suddenly the government became interested in our religious schools, similar to how they became interested in our religious schools before World War II, before World War I, before the Inquisitions and the pogroms in the past. Because generally, religion and government are not supposed to go the same, but suddenly they're interested in us. They're not interested in the Catholic schools, they're not interested in the Christian schools, they're not interested in the Mormon schools, but they're interested in the Jewish schools. This obviously shows that something is wrong from Shamayim, not from here. From Shamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is obviously bringing a rebuke. Why is the New York State Department care about our education for our kids? Why is California? Why is England? What's going on here? Why do they care so much about our little Jewish kids? It's not like even like we have 30 million kids roaming the streets. You compare us to the amount of goyim are in the world, we're not even a rounding error. Why do they care about us? Obviously, this is coming from Shamayim. So we can see that there was obviously issue with the schools, and I can name a million of them. Obviously, there's countless parents that have decided to remove their kids from Jewish schools over the last few years as a result of the obnoxious fees that are being charged. You're literally paying $500 to $1,000 per kid to go to yeshiva, only to see the kid not even necessarily become a Talmid Chacham like you were to become, in the previous generations, or even a remote inkling of it. Many times you see these kids go to yeshiva, the parents are spending $1,000 or $2,000 a month, and what ends up happening, the kid doesn't even believe in God. Do you know how many kids contact me after they've been in yeshiva already for 15 years, 14 years, 13 years, and they still don't even believe in God? Needless to say, they don't keep Shabbat, nothing. I tell them, what kind of yeshiva do you go to? And they tell me the name, and sometimes it's a reputable name, and sometimes it's not, but nonetheless, there's horrible results in many places. Not all places, but many places. When you're paying that kind of money that a lot of people can't afford anymore, and you're getting that kind of results, it's really, really terrible. It's putting salt in the wound. Almost every kid in yeshivot today has never heard the significance of the punishment for wasting seed. Now you would say, wait, but why should they teach it at that age? Shouldn't they teach it later on? No, if you wait till later on, it's too late. He's already addicted. This is when you teach about wasting seed, to make sure that throughout his puberty and throughout his development of certain hormones and so on in his body, that's when he needs to know how to control him, not when it's already out of control. But almost no school teaches this. I have one dear friend who's a Rosh Yeshiva. I know for sure he teaches his kids, and he even showed me something that he took on, and he actually has a piece of paper that he has all the kids fill out anonymously and say if they have a problem with tikkun BEIT. If they have a problem with wasting seed, to admit it, how many, who, what, when, and how. And then he takes all the papers and he sees where he stands with his class and he decides what to teach. But how many schools are like this? To my knowledge, one school. BeEzrat HaShem, when we open our school, it'll be 2 schools. But aside from that, nothing. Why? This, Rabotai, is one of the problems with the schools. You see that we're charging very high fees, but we're not necessarily getting the same educations as our grandparents, as our great-grandparents. We're not getting it. We're simply not getting it. You're seeing character trait development simply being more like a subject for intellectual purposes rather than for practical purposes. The school will tell you, we teach about midot, but yet all of the kids are more focused on video games and basketball than they are about avodat Hashem and serving Hashem. They look at a kid that's studying between breaks as a weirdo. Why? Why don't you come play basketball with us? Why don't you go do this with us? So, avodat Hashem in the yeshivot has not been the same, to say the least. So, it's not a surprise that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu closes many of them. Needless to say, the pedophilia, the filth that's going on over there, and so on and so forth, in some places, not all, obviously also didn't help. So, we see Hashem has plenty of excuses that I've mentioned, and ones that I didn't mention, why to shut down the yeshivot and the synagogue so far. Now, to see other places among Judaism suffer, we could name 1.5 million different things. But you see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't just shut down the yeshivot. He didn't just shut down the synagogues. He didn't just create business problems for some. He didn't just create more anti-Semitism. But rather, he did something unique that he doesn't do very often, to say it nicely. In fact, the last time something like this happened to this magnitude was 100 years ago. And before that, even more so. He brought a plague. He brought a plague that has created more fear among people than probably even the Holocaust. Not even fear of dying, but rather fear of the solution. The fear of a cure, the fear of the conspiracy, the fear of the government involvement, the Big Brother issues. There's been more conspiracies created in the last few months than I think any other time in history. Every other day there's a new conspiracy. He's the one that created the disease. He's the one that's going to cure it, but in reality kill people. All types of crazy. He created a magifa, a plague, but not just a plague that's killing people and not just a plague that's hurting people, but rather a plague that's literally affecting everyone that does not have bitachon be'Hashem 100%. And even the ones that do have a lot of bitachon are being affected by it. Now, we've mentioned many other things, but this was very interesting. That Khatam Sofer in Siman Lamed Vav, and also it comes in the Biur Halacha, in the Halachot Kuf Resh Yud Shin, in Seif Ayin Dalet, Seif 74. He writes, "בארצנו שנתפשט המנהג על פי הזוהר, איסור גמור הוא, ויש ליחוש לרביצת האלה האמור בזוהר, ומי שחפץ בברכה ירחק ממנו עד כאן לשונו." Here the Khatam Sofer says he's speaking about wigs in his time. He says, this came to our country, this came to our place, and it's completely forbidden for women to wear wigs. And anyone that's interested in blessing will run away from such a thing, will run away from wigs. The Shtei Chemed in Marechet Dalet Od Bet says שהפרצה של השיער הנראה בנשים מביא צרות גדולות לעולם. That these wigs that women are wearing in the streets are bringing major tragedies to עם ישראל, רחמנא ליצלן, וגם מגפה ראשי תיבות מפני גילוי פאת הנשים. He says such tragedies these wigs are bringing that they bring a plague. How does he get plague from women wearing wigs? He says, look, the word magefa is an acronym. Mipnei gilui peat anashim. Because of the showing of the wigs of the women. That's how we know, secret. Torah of Shtei Chemed, he says, these wigs of 150 years ago. We're not talking about the ones of today that are Hashem Yishmo. Much, much worse. He says, because the few women back then started wearing wigs because of the whole machloket and so on, he says that's what we have, the plague that we have. Today, there's almost comparison in a Western society. Very few women that are covering their hair with the mitpachet in comparison to the amount of women that are wearing wigs. Somebody said that there's at least 1 million women in America wearing wigs. Jewish women, Orthodox Jewish women wearing wigs. I don't know about that number, true, not true, but surely it's a very big number. You go to a synagogue with big keilot, you could spot a few individuals here and there that are wearing a mitpachet. Here and there they wear. Most women are wearing wigs. Shtei Chemed says, this brings a plague to the world. שיער אישה בגימטריה במספר קטן 21 כמספר קטן של מגפה. He says in small gematria, שיער אישה has the same gematria as the hair of a woman, has the same numerical value as מגפה, as plague. And here, Rabotai, it's just a couple of small examples of how the tzaddikim that had the ultimate bitachon in Hashem viewed the world. Well, all they knew that whatever is coming to the world, whether it's a plague or not, surely it's the best possibility that we can have according to our actions. That does not mean that they didn't recommend for you to change your actions in order for the possibilities to change. Just because whatever you have now is the best possible circumstance that could be out as a result of the actions doesn't restrict you, limit you, or even suggest for you not to change in order to improve the possibilities. Hence, tshuva. You see, each and every single week, each and every single month, Baruch Hashem, different women send us messages, sometimes of recording of them, without their face most of 99% of the time, burning their wig, destroying their wig, and adopting Torah and mitzvot to such a high level that's higher than what they were used to for many years, but still it's not enough. Why? Because more or less, most women, even if they see that, and they know, and they feel that there's a problem with the wig, if it's not the immodesty issue, then it's the idol worship issue. If it's not the idol worship issue, it's the modesty issue. But the reality is, they still have a hard time leaving it. Why? Bitachon. Or better said, lack of bitachon. Lack of bitachon that their adopting of the mitpachat and abandonment of the wig is going to be well accepted by their peers, by their community, and most importantly, by their husband. They're afraid that the community will frown upon them. They're afraid that their peers will make fun of them. They're afraid that, worse yet, their husband will not only dislike it, but in fact may even leave them as a result of it. You see, Rabotai Karim, this is not a realistic feeling. Meaning, this is not reality. This is the Satan himself putting a feeling in you of lack of trust in Hashem. Why? Because he's making you forget one simple thing. Chen, beauty, charisma, the likeness, that's a gift from Hashem. It's not because your face looks a certain way. It's not because your body looks a certain way. It's not because your eyes look a certain way that you are beautiful in the eyes of your husband. No. It has nothing to do with that. And if you do, you have no concept whatsoever of who Aborei Barach is. Why? Because Akadosh Baruch Hu is mezaveg zivugin. Akadosh Baruch Hu is the one that puts people together. He doesn't put people together because this guy likes eyes like this, and he likes hips like this, and she likes eyebrows like this. That's not why he puts people together. He puts people together based on their neshamot. Based on where their neshama is. In the Gemara Masechet Sotah, page 2a says, a man gets a woman based on his actions. If he's righteous, he gets a tznuah, he gets a modest woman. If he's wicked, he gets a putza, he gets an immodest woman. What does righteous have to be with modest and wicked have to be with immodest? Shouldn't it be righteous with righteous, wicked with wicked? No. If he's righteous, he gets a modest woman, because if she's modest, likely she's righteous. If he's wicked, then he'll get immodest. Why? Because if she's immodest, for sure she's wicked. There's no such thing as immodest and righteous at the same time. No such thing as someone that's a mechalel Shabbat or eats pig and as a Jew and so on and still a good person. No such thing. Why? If you're bad against Hashem, you're bad against people. Maybe not the people that are in front of you that are talking about you, but needless to say, at some point when you're given an opportunity, you're bad. Because you're bad against your Creator. So a woman that's immodest is viewed as wicked. Now, there's so many righteous women that are modest altogether, but they have this one idol on their head. They're righteous, but they have this idol on their head, and they know there's something wrong with it. But the rabbi said it's okay, even though betoch tochech, you know it's not okay. Inside, you know it's not okay. You know it's probably coming from India. You know that it's coming from a place. I don't know where it's coming from, but you know where it's coming from. You know it's not modest. You know that it's not good. You know it's a horrible thing. But you have a tough time. Why? You're afraid that your husband may not like you. That's a bitachon problem. But you see, when you have bitachon in HaShem and not in your looks, then you'll know that it's only a Kadosh Baruch Hu that gives you beauty in the eyes of the beholder. Your husband will only see you as beautiful if a Kadosh Baruch Hu decides that he's going to see you as beautiful. If your eyes are like this or the eyes are like this, a Kadosh Baruch Hu has a husband for you. And if you're already married, he can make your husband look at you in such a way that you wish you would have already done this 20 years ago. He suddenly views you as more beautiful. With the kisurosh. How come? That's a Kadosh Baruch Hu for you. No one ever loses following what a Kadosh Baruch Hu says. But sometimes a Kadosh Baruch Hu throws you in the water and you don't even realize what to do. My whole life I grew up with wigs being the right thing, and I only realize now it's wrong, but I don't know how do I abandon it. I'm in the water. What do I do? Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm the one that threw you in the water. I threw you in the water. Why? I want to see how you swim. Why? Because if you swim, because you trust me, and not your own strength, you're going to swim to a place I'm going to bring you to. And that place is surely better than where you would have been had I not thrown you into the water. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, bitachon is something that is connected to each and every single one of our steps in our day-to-day life as Jews. Whether it's the way that we speak, the way that we give, the way that we take, the way that we look, the way that we behave, and so on and so forth. What the Chazon Ish is trying to tell us here, Rabotai, is that we have an opportunity every day to swim in the water that Hashem throws us into. Every day Hashem is throwing us into water. One way or the other, He's throwing us into the water. He's throwing us into it, and we have to have bitachon, but that bitachon can either be in our own skills or in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, if you say, Kochi ve'otzim yadi, you say, no, I'll get it out of it. I believe in myself. I. Hashem says, okay, you're on your own. You're on your own, and guess what? You're only one step away from being an idol worshiper by believing in yourself. That's why the pasuk continues with idolatry. On the other hand, when you're swimming in the water and there's pain and you don't know what to do, instead of saying, you say, oh Hashem, what do you want me to do? Now why? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Here, I'm in the water. I know you put me here. What do you want me to do? Swim this way or that way? Which way? Which way? Why? Because I know that this water, as hot, as cold, as rough, whatever the water is, it's the best possible situation that I can be put into according to all the things that I've done. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only thing that I ask you to do is, what do you want me to do in order to improve my situation? To improve the water, to improve the circumstance, today and tomorrow. Every day we swim, Rabotai. We could trust in ourselves and we could be swimming for years without even knowing why. Or we can trust in Hashem. Do tshuva every single day, every single opportunity that you can. Work on your character traits, develop them, fix them. Try to simply become an Eved Hashem, a servant of Hashem in everything. Every one of us has weaknesses. I admit to mine have no end. The world will end and my weaknesses won't. This is not a judgment. This is not a criticism. This is simple reality. But what we can all do is listen to our sages. Listen to the Chazon Ish. Listen to all of the sages that we've had over the years tell us from the blueprint that they discovered, from the blueprint that's always been there, and they were fortunate enough to grab on with two hands and say, look, I found it. I found the blueprint. This is where you need to go. This is the treasure. This is you. Just follow in this line and you'll get there. I know it doesn't make sense to you, son. I know it doesn't make sense to you, young lady, because you think you can go a different way. But I promise you, I have the blueprint in my hand. You go this way, you're going to win. BeEzrat Hashem, this will be another week that we all win in our Avodat Hashem, in our servitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We get closer to Him through our difficulties, through our trials and tribulations, through our fortunes, through our losses, through everything that He gives us. Celebrate His name, honor His name, and use these experiences to get closer to Him and sanctify His name even more each and every week, each and every day, each and every hour. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.